Welcome in, friends, to another edition of Sports from the Couch here on Mercado Airwaves. I'm your host, Mike Mercado. I want to thank you so much for making us a part of your day. Before we get to this latest segment from the latest edition of the Sports Cubicle on WCPT 820 AM, we want to remind you can follow us all over in the universe. I'm on Twitter at Mike Media, Instagram, Mike Mercado Media. You could be interactive with the show on Twitter at Couch Sports Talk and at Sports Cubicle TV. Like, rate, review, and share us on all major podcast platforms, wherever you get your favorite podcasts at Mercado Airwaves. Check out the video version of the podcast over at youtube.com/Mercado Airwaves Network. We have swag over at teespring.com/Mercado Airwaves. And if you would like to get our weekly NFL picks, check us out at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. Now enjoy this segment from the latest edition of the Sports Cubicle on WCPT 820 AM with Dan Marver, Devin Tingle, Paul Chivari, and myself, Mike Mercado. Christmas came early for us here on the Sports Cubicle on WCPT 820 AM. Devin Tingle, Paul Chivari, Dan Marver, and myself, Mike Mercado, the man, the myth, the legend, a staple in Chicago sports media, a staple in helping groom the next generation of people talking the inside and outs of sports, both what it means to our community and what it means on the field. You could catch him Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Kap J.Hood on ESPN 1000. He's the voice of the UIC Flames basketball, baseball team. He talks wrestling, guys. If you want to talk wrestling, AEW or WWE, you know who I'm talking about, the one and only Jonathan Hood. Hoodie, how are you, my friend?
I'm well, Mike. Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate that.
You know, it's a crazy time because when we scheduled this, my first question was going to be like, hey, how do you feel about like Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus and this new regime? Maybe there's some excitement in the city. And as soon as I wrote that down on my sheet, Aaron Rodgers decides to sign an extension with the Green Bay Packers. So I guess instead of going the direction of how you thought the hires were, how much tougher did the job just get, which is already a tough job, for the new GM and head coach with a second-year quarterback that didn't get a real chance to shine last season, and the guy up north, the one who claims to own your franchise, is staying put?
Yeah, well, it's much difficult for the Bears, for the Vikings, for the Lions, and the NFC, because whatever you know about Aaron Rodgers, you know that he's very formidable for any opponent. Now, here's the thing about Green Bay. Green Bay, for sure, they mastered the NFC North, right? You know that they more than likely will be the favorite again to win the division. The problem is that they can't get it done on a regular basis getting deep into the playoffs. So Aaron Rodgers on your team increases your chance to get to the playoffs, but it's about what they can do. All I know about Aaron Rodgers is he has one Super Bowl championship, which is cool, and also the master of the NFC North. But what about the rest of it, right? I think that when I saw the signing coming across about Aaron Rodgers, my first thought was, boy, the Packers don't think anything of Jordan Love at all. Like, just a 4-year deal, meaning that, you know, Rodgers is not there to really help out Jordan Love for the future. They're looking at Aaron Rodgers saying, we're going to keep him around for at least 3+ years to help us win a Super Bowl. And so that says a lot about Jordan Love, that Rodgers is going to be signed here for 4 years.
What does it say about the NFL, though, that we see another one of these contracts to a quarterback who's up there in age? And, you know, I'm not going to tell you whether a person's capped at 37 and you should only pay him 87 or 100 or whatever. Like, we've already seen that there's outliers to this, and Aaron Rodgers is special enough that maybe he is one of these dudes that could go out there and be 40, 41 years old. But when you see these contracts going out to these quarterbacks and you see how often it doesn't work when you're not able to put the other pieces together, are you surprised that we're still doing this? Or do you think Green Bay, like you said, because of what they've seen from Jordan Love, was that desperate to keep him? Do you think that they really believe Aaron Rodgers is going to see the end of this contract? Was this more of a desperation move? Because I don't see they're going to tag Devontae Adams, but what else are you going to do? That team is a continuous first round and out division winner.
Well, like I said, with Rodgers on the team, it gives you a chance, right? Because that's all you want. Clearly, the Packers are not in a position to try to restart the organization, because because Green Bay several times, Mike, could have just said, you know what, I am done with the drama with Aaron Rodgers. Is he coming in? Is he not coming in? You know, we're going to cut ties. You do what you want to do, but we have to be steadfast and keep our eyes on the organization for the future. And Packers are not willing to do that. They're not ready to cut ties with a guy that can give them guaranteed at the minimum 10 wins, right? And so this is why that happens. But the reason why you have a contract like this that's doled out to Aaron Rodgers is because of guys like you and me, right? When we talk about football, we talk primarily about quarterbacks. We can talk about quarterbacks all day long, about Patrick Mahomes, and we talk about Derek Carr. We can talk about Joe Burrow leading the Bengals out of nowhere to the Super Bowl, and Josh Allen, is he ready to get it done for Buffalo? And here locally with Justin Fields, is he ready to take another step? We talk about quarterback play so often that it's not hype, it's just the thing that we talk about. And so because we talk about it, the front offices of the NFL are talking about it. They're like, man, we have to heavily invest in our quarterback because it's the most important position. Well, it is. But also a pass rusher also is important. A wide receiver is also important. To have a good coaching staff is also important. But we're so hyper-focused on the quarterback that, Rodgers has earned this contract, but I think you and I talking about the quarterbacks all the time really lets organizations know, like, man, we got to get this right, or we're just not going to get it done. We're not going to get the Super Bowl.
I think it's going to be really fascinating to see how this affects the rest of the NFL. And like you said, it's a quarterback-driven league. But if you're, for example, here in Chicago, you look at what Ryan Poles now has to do to build a roster. You don't have as many draft picks as you would like, and that's from the old regime, but it is what it is. That's what you came in. Those are the cards that you were dealt. Matt Eberflus is going to have to find a way to put a system together to get the best out of Justin Fields. But now that you know what the next 4 years are looking like, you know what your division kind of looks like. We're going to see what happens with Kirk Cousins in Minnesota. We'll find out what Detroit decides to do as they move forward after Jared Goff. If J.Hood is up there in the front office, you're getting paid all the big bucks, and you can make your roster. Are you designing it to beat Aaron Rodgers, or are you now looking past that 4 years? Are you trying to kind of get ahead of the curve now where we just got to get through this next 1 or 2 years and be in a position where we might have some money and draft capital to actually make a legit change for the future?
Oh, well, if I'm the Bears, I got to realize I was 6-11 last year and not in the playoff mix. So I'm of the opinion, Mike, that the Bears are not in a rebuild, but a retooling. And there's a difference between the two. Rebuild, that means that you're getting rid of all your draft, trying to gain draft capital and try to trade away some of your assets, like Khalil Mack, or not deal with trying to re-sign Keem Hicks or some of the other key players on this roster defensively. I think that the Bears, because they're 6-11, they're working with a young quarterback, and you can't push all your chips in the middle of the table, believing that you can be able to catch up to the Packers, because the Packers are just that good. They were 13-4 last year. But what I would do is that I would try to get into the first round if I could, and then from there, try to be able to be a better football team, especially offensively, right? The Bears are so far behind everybody else in the NFL offensively that you need at least 3 wide receivers, definitely 1 difference maker, and 2 others that can get it done. You got to worry about what you got to do with Cole Kmet at tight end. Is he going to be the guy or not? You got to make sure your offensive line is stout for Justin Fields. So to me, everything's not predicated on the Packers because they're solidified, right? Mm-hmm. What you have to do is try to get better than the Vikings and make sure that the Lions stay down. So if you're going to have problems with the Packers again, it wouldn't surprise me. Listen, Aaron Rodgers is the hammer, and the Bears are the nail in this equation, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that if you're the Bears, you incrementally get better on the offensive line, protection for Fields, give him weapons, and year by year you hope that you can get better. The Packers are not going to be around always being in the top of the NFC North, but you can't get it all done in one offseason.
I could talk Bears and football with you all day, Hoodie. You know this, but I refuse to talk football and Bears without, especially at this point, talking about JD. And this is something when it happened, we dedicated our live show from 6 to 8 during the holiday season, and it's the whole community hurt when this happened, and you being my mentor and knowing, for the audience, I don't think you can ever talk enough about some of the legends that we lost over the last year and a half, and the whole world did over the last 2 or 3 years. But just a second as we're talking, Bears, just about your old co-host and your dear friend. Can you give us just a little bit about the amazing guy he was and his family?
Well, absolutely. So I went to hospice to see JD a week before he passed away. This is during the holidays, around Christmas. And, he was sitting in his chair, and he was with the conversation. His body was just wrecked with cancer. But JD was the same JD that I always remembered over the years in my 15-plus years of knowing him as far as being optimistic. And he kept telling me, he goes, Hoodie, I just got to get to December 26th. And December 26th was a big day for him in his mind because he thought that he can get at least one more chemo treatment and he would get over the hump. Doctors told him that, hey, if you get another round of chemo, it's going to kill you. And, he broke it to me in hospice saying, hey, buddy, I got bad news for you. He told me what I just told you about. If you take another round of chemo, it would kill him. And he told me as if to say, hey, I know this is going to be hard on you. It's just like, and he's the one who has cancer. But that's who JD was. He cared about my feelings and cared about what everybody else thought. But he was defiant toward the end, Mike, because he was saying that, these doctors don't know me. They don't know my resolve. I'm going to beat this. And the reason why I think he felt that way is because, for those that don't know the story, he spent the better part of 6 to 8 years with his wife, who also passed away with cancer. And JD was flying his wife to Houston and Minneapolis and California, trying to find the best doctors to try to treat her form of cancer. The reason why that this is a heartbreaking story is because their young son, Caitlin and JD's son, Parker, had never seen his parents healthy, both at the same time. At least he doesn't remember it, right? Obviously, his mom he was like 9 or 10 years old, I believe, Parker. So just think about it. You're a young kid, your mom was sick, and then your dad gets sick, and they both pass away from cancer. So I'm just glad that a lot of people came together, and they were able to raise money for Parker, and because he's without his parents. They both passed away from cancer. And we at ESPN 1000, people across the country, around the world, were giving money to Parker for his future, and is just touching. And just the whole thing is just sad, because JD was my radio partner nationally for ESPN Radio and also locally at ESPN 1000, and we've known each other for 15 years. It's hard to think about him in the past tense still, Mike, but he meant so much to so many people.
Hoodie, to you and to everybody who was vulnerable, first of all, thank you for being vulnerable for us here, and for all you guys who were vulnerable and open and talk to everybody. And I think it's in today's day and age, it's so important because it's a great example to see, and I hate to use the cliche of it's great to see strong men cry and be open about their feelings, and a friend uniting people, and a family trying to get through something, and having lights like you and the rest of the amazing group of people that are going to help Parker get through this. It's an honor just to know you guys, and I'm so proud of all of you guys for being so open. And there's no easy transition. I just wanted to say that, and our audience loves all you guys, and of course we're always thinking about their families. So the one and only, the legend, Jonathan Hood, is joining us for just a few more moments. I mean, what else can we ask for, man? He always gives us all his time, all his effort, and he's the best. Check out all the amazing stuff that he's doing. Obviously, Kap J.Hood, one of the best shows nationally that's doing local stuff. You guys got to check him out. I mean, I know everybody has their favorite show, but if you're looking for something that's going to be fun, entertaining, and also talk sports, I don't need to sell you on Jonathan Hood and David Kaplan, but you got to check out Kap J.Hood on ESPN 1000 Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Of course, Under the Hood. Make sure you're checking out Tuesday, Wrestling Tuesday. He's the voice of the UIC Flames basketball and baseball. And I'm going to get you out. I have two more things. Just give you a chance.
Lot, Mike. That sounds like a lot, what you just laid out there. That's a lot.
You do a lot, and it's amazing that you still have the grind to do more and still teach and still give interviews and give lessons. Like, this is what I'm saying. It is important, and it's something that I wanted to do over the last, and a little detour, over the last few months where we've been blessed here on the Sports Cubicle. Devin Tingle, Paul Chivari, Dan Marver, and myself are lucky to be able to talk to people like you, and it's important that the new generation of sports fans that are going to be diehards kind of learn these lessons from people like you and all the amazing guys on 670 and all the amazing men and women on ESPN 1000. We need to learn these lessons, these stories. When we lost JD, when we lost Les, their stories are going to be told by you guys, and then your stories will be told on. And it's important in our little media, the number 3 market in the world, where we have overnights, where we have Monday through Fridays all day local sports. sports, it's important that people like you we get you your flowers. So all the work you do is you're the voice of a lot of people, and without you, we don't have the Sports Cubicle. Without guys like Jerry Riles, we don't have the Sports Cubicle. So I will always throw the flowers to the one and only Jonathan Hood.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. It's a grind, but you know what? I told my wife, I said, if we get married, there's going to be someone else in our lives. And she goes, well, I don't do that. I go, no, not that. I said the mistress in our lives is going to be the business, right? And she completely understands that because it's a labor of love.
It's great we find the labor of love in this one. We don't have to spend so much time on this because I want to get your thoughts on the Bulls really quickly, but the MLB lockout, you do and call and watch so much baseball from the lowest levels all the way to the highest, and you see what this lockout is doing. And the impact, I think, already has happened. But the real thing that I'm interested in is, do you think the damage has already been done where they can't go back? We might get baseball back. Guys like you and I are always going to go to the south side or the north side to watch baseball. But has the damage already been done with MLB and this lockout?
I would say so. But damage, it's a relative term, Mike, because it's like, look at it from this standpoint. Markets like New York and Chicago and Los Angeles with the Dodgers in particular, St. Louis, Houston to an extent, and maybe a few other markets, Philadelphia, you could throw them in there as well. They're coming back, right? We've been through lockouts before. We've been through baseball stoppages, and people do return. But the damage has been done for a number of reasons. Number one, you have a commissioner in Rob Manfred that couldn't care less about what you and I want as baseball fans, right? I mean, when you are an owner or a commissioner in the pocket of the owners, you couldn't care less what we want on a day-to-day basis. They're not interested in growing the game because the owners already have their generational wealth. They're going to give it to their kids, or they'll sell it off for billions of dollars, and they'll move on with it, right? This is, for some of these owners, it's a pet project. It's like, hey, I go to cocktail parties, and guess what? I'm the owner of the Arizona Diamondbacks. I'm the owner of, the Los Angeles Angels, of Anaheim, whatever it is, right? So what they care about is, yes, the bottom line, the dollar. But as far as growing the game, this does not affect me because they already got me. I mean, I grew up with baseball. I love playing baseball, so this is not a problem for me. But I think that the issue with Major League Baseball is the awareness. That's the problem, Mike, with Major League Baseball. Like, how is it that Tyler Hero, no matter if he was part of a video or part of a song of Jack Harlow or not, I want you to just think about it. Tyler Hero has more Instagram followers than Mike Trout.
Insane.
That's a problem.
That's insane.
And Hero's a bench player.
In Miami, against the Babe Ruth of his generation. That's insane, Hoodie.
That's right. And also, I believe, and I think the same thing with Bryce Harper, right? Bryce Harper has, I think, somewhere between 1.7, 1.9 million followers on Instagram. But I think that, again, Tyler Hero has more. My point is that Major League Baseball is not cool. Major League Baseball is not in pop culture. Major League Baseball is not on TMZ. And that's a major problem for the baseball, because it's ultimately about the individuals. It's not about the sport, right? We get bogged down as talk show hosts about how the game can be changed and how the game should be faster and how the game needs a pitch clock for the pitchers and all this stuff. It's not about that, because as long as baseball doesn't have a clock, it'll always be anywhere between 2 hours and 45 minutes and 3 hours and 15 minutes or longer, right? So it's an investment of time. The problem with baseball is that as much as you and I like combat sports, as much as you and I have watched the NBA or NFL or college football or some of the other more popular sports, baseball lags behind. Yeah, there was something, I believe it was in the athletic.com, about the top 50 athletes in the world. There were no baseball players on there. That's right? Crazy. There are no baseball players on there. The league is less than 6% black. So, so instead of marketing Latino players, instead of marketing the best players, the best of the best players, they would rather turn a blind eye to it and not be cool and not be in pop culture. So before we talk about how baseball can change and baseball needs to be more modern and baseball needs to be more quick, for the general public, they need to know who these people are. And that's a major problem for the sport.
You're just preaching a good word right now, Hoodie, because it's frustrating when here in Chicago we've been spoiled, and we know we've been spoiled when we've had cool players like Javi on one side, and then all of these White Sox players are just like the coolest dudes in the world. And you see it here, but that's not all of Major League Baseball. You're not seeing Tim Anderson on the covers of video games. Fernando Tatis, who was a White Sox, he's cool, but you don't see them like really marketing the way they do and Andrew Wiggins at one point, or like they will, let's say, big stars like a Steph Curry. Steph Curry is everywhere in the NBA. But this is why, Hoodie, I truly believe MLB owners have always known that this day was coming and have always known the exact moment that they needed to play baseball. And it was never April 1st. It was never March 31st. It was never April 15th. There's an exact date that they have circled on their calendar that they hired some intern to figure out and run a bunch of calculations to be like, this is the moment that as long as we get to this point, we make all our money. And guess what? Now that we promised a ESPN an extra 2 teams, we'll make a couple extra bucks and not tell the players. Hope that they don't know. Hoodie, this is what we're dealing with MLB owners, and it's frustrating. But last one, we'll let you free after this because, you're a busy man as we've been seeing this entire episode. The Bulls, okay? I went into this offseason with the expectations lowered. It's a new team, new roster. We'll see what happens. AK, Mark Eversley make a big move in the middle at the end of last season for Vooch. But then expectations changed when DeMar DeRozan decided to play like an MVP. Expectations changed when this team was the best team in the Eastern Conference all the way up until the All-Star break. I guess the question is whether they're good or not. Injuries, everybody's injured in the NBA right now. The question is, what should an NBA fan be feeling with expectations of this Chicago Bulls team? Should we just be sitting and be like, well, at least they're entertaining, they look competent, they're playing pro basketball, they look like a professional team? Or should we be talking about Eastern Conference contenders? Has the goalpost changed?
Well, it definitely changed when you saw Billy Donovan come through the door as the head coach, right? Just remember where we Bulls fans were with Jim Boylan as the head coach, and before that, Fred Hoiberg, and under the guys, the leadership of Gar Forman and John Paxson. Just understand where we were. We're talking about the draft. You would have called me and asked me about draft picks in March about the Bulls, right? If Boylan's still in place, if Gar and Paxson's still in place, you're probably talking to me about, okay, who can the Bulls draft? Now you're talking about a true contender. The Bulls are amongst the best teams in the East. We don't take that away. But because the Bulls have struggled against upper echelon teams like the Bucks, the 76ers, and the Heat, the Suns and the Golden State Warriors, teams of that ilk in Memphis, you could throw them there as well. I think that we have to realize that there's layers to this, right? The Bulls are a very good basketball team, but the Bulls don't have the superstar power to be able to overcome Joel Embiid and to overcome the defense of the Miami Heat, to overcome Giannis, to overcome what we're seeing with the Phoenix Suns or Ja Morant or Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. There's a difference here, right? That doesn't mean the Bulls are way less than, Mike. What I'm telling you is that I'll take where the Bulls are now, struggling, trying to figure out who they are with a 5-game losing streak, and be able to figure it out than to be where Orlando is or where the Knicks are or where the Houston Rockets are or Oklahoma City. I don't want to be talking about the draft in March anymore. This team has a commitment to winning, but you got to realize, like the Portland Trail Blazers, another example of like all those years under Terry Stotts, they were always bridesmaids, right? They're always good teams, solid teams, but never can be able to get over the hump. Hopefully, from the Bulls standpoint, that they'll be able to grow together next year, next couple of years, and be able to find that big fish in free agency. You know how the league is. It's about stockpiling superstar talent. The Bulls have stars. DeRozan's a star. Zach LaVine's a star. I think Vucevic is a star. But superstar-level talent is the difference between a championship and not. And I just think that the Bulls are right now are kind of stuck in the middle of the pack out of the top 8, and I'm good with it because there's room for growth. They're not going to be the Knicks. That's what I'm happy about. They're not going to be the Pistons. They're not going to be Sacramento or Portland as it is right now. I'll take this all day with room for improvement than to suck. That's just for me.
Oh, 100%. And when you put it like that, it almost drives home the point that I've kind of just had rattling in the back of my head is I cannot forgive Gar Forman and John Paxson for not being aggressive and going forward when the Eastern Conference wasn't so stacked. I mean, you're looking at Boston right now, who might be one of the hottest teams in the NBA, and Jason Tatum is only 24 years old. The Eastern Conference is going to be stacked for a long time. Cleveland has done a great job putting a strong, big roster together. This is going to be a tough road, but if let's say these assassins up in the front office and AK and ME decide, oh, it looks like Jokic is not settling well over in Denver. Then all of a sudden you might be talking about not a team with just 3 All-Stars, but 3 All-Stars and a superstar. That'll be something interesting. Hoodie, I've taken enough of your time. As we said, you probably have a job you got to go to. You're probably going to call like some international fight on, Sea Waters. Who knows? He's the one and only Chicago media legend. He is Jonathan Hood. Check him out, Kap J.Hood. Make sure you're checking him out over Under the Hood. And, of course, Tuesday, Wrestling Tuesday. It's WrestleMania season. Cody Rhodes, will he come to the WWE? AEW Revolution. I think Punk, a Chicago native, had the match of the night with MJF. So Monday Night Raw will be here next Monday. So, Hoodie, we are in full go for wrestling season.
Well, you're so right about that. Wrestling is at a all-time fever pitch for this generation, that's for sure. AEW Revolution from Orlando was awesome. WrestleMania, that's going to be interesting to try to fill up Jerry World twice, trying to figure out how you can get 80,000 or more people twice in the same venue. That's going to be an uphill climb for a WWE product that's kind of, milquetoast.
To say the least.
That needs some help. So we'll see, man. But, yeah, we're having fun talking about it on Tuesday, Wrestling Tuesday, the podcast. But you can call me anytime. I'd be glad to talk to you about that and more for sure.
He's our guy. Check him out on Twitter at TweetsJHood, on Instagram at IGJHood. He's our mentor. He's the man, the myth, the legend. He's one of the best. He's our friend. He's Jonathan Hood.